Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. I'm Nick Plies, and this is my room, and welcome to the Tales of the Hunted. Ooh. Yeah, okay. Sorry, guys. Just trying to be scary for the thing. Tonight we're gonna be doing a writing competition with me and my friends, and we're gonna see who can make the scariest stories. No. Okay, just saying that we're trying to make this thing. Well, we were originally gonna do like a live reading on Instagram, but now we're gonna do it here on YouTube. So let's get started with our first story of the night. And I'm gonna introduce him really creepy. I think. First up, the scariest story is. No, just kidding. Alright, first up, guys, is my friend Hector Laura and his story, Felix.
No Returns by Hector Lara. Haley, are you ready? Let's go. If we don't hurry, there won't be anything left, and I don't want you crying later telling me you couldn't find a costume. Coming, Mom. Abigail shakes her head and mumbles, "What is it with that girl?" Haley can be heard running down the stairs. Haley, slow down. You'll fall and crack your head open. Well, I wouldn't need a costume then, would I, Mom? Haley smiles at her mom. Abigail sighs. Come on, let's go before they close. They shut the door, and moments later they can be heard driving away. Abigail drives into a strip mall. There it is, Mom. Howling Hal's Halloween Hub. Woohoo, we're here. They get out of the car and approach the entrance. Haley shoots inside. Abigail takes a deep breath and follows Haley into the madness. 2 hours have passed by. Okay, Haley, have you made a decision yet? Haley stands there rubbing her chin. I think I have, says Haley. I think I want to be a superhero. Woohoo! Abigail begins to fist pump in the air. But I don't know which superhero, replies Haley. Never celebrate early, Abigail says to herself. Okay, so which one do you want to be? Haley says, either Supergirl or Batgirl, but I don't know which one. Abigail asks, which one do you like better? Haley says, I don't know. They're both cool. Okay, says Abigail. I'll hold them up, and you choose the one that will give you the best Halloween. Haley takes a moment to think. She stares at both costumes back and forth, and then she points and says, that one. Which one? asks Abigail. That one, says Haley. Abigail looks at Haley's outstretched finger, then follows it over her shoulder and sees a bin full of costumes. Which one, honey? Abigail asks. The one looking at me, the kitty cat. Abigail gasps. Oh my God, is that Felix? Felix the cat? You know him, Mommy? asks Haley. I sure do. God, I'm old. Are you sure that's the one you want? We're not going to come back, so you better be sure. Haley replies, yes, I'm sure. Okay, let's go try it on. It's on clearance, so let's make sure it fits. They walk over to the fitting rooms. Haley walks into the fitting room while Abigail waits outside. Moments later, a scream is heard, and Haley shouts, ow, and starts to cry. Mommy! Abigail pulls the curtain back and finds Haley with a big scratch on her arm with blood oozing out and dripping on the floor. Shaken at seeing Haley in this state, Abigail says, oh my God, Haley, what happened? Haley replies, I don't know, Mommy. I was putting the costume on, and the next thing I know, I was scratched. The manager comes running over. I got here as fast as I could. I heard a scream. Is everyone all right? Abigail looks at the manager. She must have been scratched by the costume when she was trying it on. Now she's bleeding. Manager says, don't worry, I'll go get the first aid kit. As the manager administers first aid and cleans the blood off the floor, he apologizes to Abigail. I'm so sorry. I want you to know that I'll be picking up the tab for this costume if you still want it. My policy here at Howling Hal's is to make the customers howl for the right reasons. We just want to make sure you're happy. I'm also happy to give you a bottle of champagne normally reserved for our 100th customer of the day. Please take it. It's yours. Abigail responds, Look, These things happen. It's not your fault. Please, I insist, says the manager. Abigail looks at Haley, then looks at the manager. I'll tell you what. I'll take you up on the generous offer for the costume, and you keep the champagne. The manager nods, then clears his throat. I do have to remind you that since the costume is on clearance, there are no returns. Later on that evening, back at the house, Abigail yells from her bedroom, Okay, bedtime, Haley. Did you brush your teeth? Yes, Haley responds. Did you take off that costume? Abigail asks. There's no answer. Haley! Haley waits another moment, then responds. I will in a second. I want that costume to come off before you go to sleep. We haven't even washed it. Later on that night, Abigail is woken up by sounds of giggling. Haley, are you still awake? Abigail asks faintly. Then she hears Haley yell, Stop it! Abigail gets up quickly and runs to Haley's room. She turns the light on, sees Haley fully dressed in her costume. Abigail asks Haley, What is going on? Who are you talking to? And I thought I asked you to take that costume off before going to bed. I thought I did, says Haley. Abigail asks, What were you giggling at? Haley says, He was tickling me. Who was tickling you? Asked Abigail. Felix. Felix was tickling you? How? Asked Abigail. With his tail. Then he started to lift my pajamas and I told him to stop, replied Haley. Okay, this is freaking me out. Take that costume off and go to sleep. You have school tomorrow, said Abigail. It was late. She kissed Haley, tucked her in, and went back to her bedroom and fell asleep. The house is silent. Loud, quick stomps are heard as if someone is running up and down the stairs. Abigail opens her eyes just long enough to glance at the clock. It's 4 a.m. Haley? Abigail shouts with her eyes closed. Haley, is that you? What are you doing running up and down the stairs? What have I told you about that? Suddenly, a loud scream can be heard from Haley's room. Abigail runs over there, fumbles with the light, and sees Haley with her costume on, sitting on her bed. Haley, are you okay? Haley sits quietly. Haley, answer me. Are you okay? Haley sits unresponsive with her costume on. Abigail only sees Felix staring back. Abigail goes to take her costume off. I told you to take that thing off. Abigail gasps as she removes the head of the costume. Haley's fast asleep. Abigail continues to take the rest of the costume off and throws it on the chair in the middle of the room. Abigail then says, What the hell? Haley's arms and legs are all scratched up and bleeding. Abigail looks back over to the costume flopped on the chair and it stares back at her. Haley begins to cry. Mommy! Abigail holds her tight. There, honey. Everything's going to be all right. Shh, Mommy's here, Haley says. Mommy, it hurts all over. Don't worry, honey. You don't have to wear that costume anymore. Mommy's going to take it back tomorrow. Abigail gets up, leaves the room, and comes back with a black garbage bag and stuffs the costume inside. In the bag you go, you wonderful, wonderful cat. Abigail makes herself laugh. The next day, Abigail drives to Howling Hal's Halloween Hub. She walks to the entrance. Closed for lunch? I don't have time for this, she says. Abigail peeks through the window, sees no one. She thinks for a moment. She walks around to the back door. She pushes the handle and it opens. My lucky day, she says. She walks inside. Okay, I'll just walk to the clearance box, dump Felix inside, and walk out before I get nabbed for breaking and entering. Abigail finds the clearance box, goes to take the costume out of the bag, and nothing but clothes come out. What the hell? I'm getting out of here, Abigail exclaims. Suddenly, the lights go out. Nothing but the daylight coming through the front of the store illuminates the aisles of the store. She hears the back door open and shut. Now she feels a bit embarrassed. Hello? Is anybody there? I'm sorry, I was just here to return a costume and I got stuck inside the store. Abigail walks toward the back, half expecting to meet the manager any second. She hears footsteps running, then stopping on the other side of the aisle. Hello? The hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Now she hears the footsteps again. Now they stop behind her. She turns around and sees Felix standing there staring at her in silence. Her heart drops into her stomach in horror and begins to run. She trips and falls. She feels something fuzzy slithering up her leg. She gets up and runs towards the front of the store. She sees the silhouette of the champagne bottle on the dimly lit counter. She hears a pitter-patter of the footsteps approaching. She grabs a champagne bottle and swings it with all her might back around at the approaching menace and plunges the bottle into its head. The store lights suddenly come back on. Breathing heavily and with the bottle in her hand, Abigail notices blood flowing down Felix's head and pooling on the floor. The manager comes through the back door. "What is going on here?" says the manager. I don't know," replies Abigail. Then suddenly a faint, "Mommy," from the floor. "Haley? Haley, is that you?" Abigail kneels down and holds Haley in a warm embrace. "Haley, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Are you okay?" Abigail says, sobbing. "I'll call an ambulance," says the manager. "Felix says you didn't like him, Mommy. It hurts so bad. I can't see anything," says Haley. "Haley, hold on. Everything's going to be all right," replies Abigail. "You don't like me. You wanted to take me back." "What are you talking about, Haley? Take you back where?" says Abigail. The lights shut off. No sign of the manager. "Haley?" Abigail slowly turns to face Haley. A bloody Felix just stares back. Haley is gone. Over a police frequency, you can hear dispatch say, "Possible double homicide at the Halloween club. One male, one female, both middle-aged. No other victims to note." The end.
You're a funny guy. I mean, you've been to Alcatraz and all that stuff. Oh, sorry guys, I didn't see you there. Just hanging out with my friend, little warden or little prisoner, Timothy. Hey buddy, did you like the story? Yeah, you liked it. Good job, Hector. Let's see. The next guy can defeat the cat. This man is scariest story is in the world. I don't know why I'm doing it. Okay, I'm just gonna tell who it is and introduce the name of the story. Up next right now is Jeremy Lechner, my girlfriend, and his story, The Haunted Light.
Good evening. Tonight's story begins many years ago off the coast of Maine on a rain-swept November night. It was a night when the sea water choked the air. It was enough to frighten even the hardiest sailor. And Captain Scott was trying to keep his ship afloat in the gale. And just when he had lost all hope, he saw a vision. The warm, welcoming light of a lighthouse. It was the lighthouse at Prescott Point. By the light of its beacon, Captain Scott made his way to the safety of land, where he and his crew laid that night. And in the morning, Captain Scott made his way to the lighthouse to thank its keeper for saving his and his crew's life. But when Scott told the keepers of his tale, they were confused. "There is no light in that lighthouse," they said. "And there has not been one for over 100 years. Captain Scott was, of course, confused and asked them, "What do they mean?" And this is what they told him. It was far back in the year 1873, and Benjamin Harker had been appointed the new lighthouse keeper at Prescott Point. A great honor in those days, for it was his job to safeguard the many vessels that floated in and out of the harbors of Maine. And to his new post, Benjamin Harker brought his daughter, the lovely Amelia. Now, Benjamin was of the old sailor class. He always took his job very seriously. He made sure to tend the light, cleaning the brass, checking the oceanographic charts, always making sure that his lighthouse was ready should a storm come, as they often did. But while Benjamin Harker was dedicated to his work, his daughter Amelia was, well, as many young people often are, distracted by other pursuits. For you see, Amelia had found a dashing young gentleman in town named Jack, and oh, she was head over heels in love with him. Now, Benjamin had often warned his daughter to stay away from that young rapscallion, but Amelia knew it was nothing more than an innocent tryst. What could be the harm? Well, on one fateful weekend in November 1873, Benjamin Harker was called away from his lighthouse to tend to his sick brother miles away. He left the lighthouse in the care of his daughter, warning her not to go near that young man from town. Amelia promised, and off Benjamin went. No one knows what precisely transpired that weekend, or what even became of the young Jack from town. What is known is that Sunday night, when a raging storm swept into Maine, the lighthouse at Prescott Point went out. The townsfolk were furious. When Benjamin Harker returned, they demanded to know why. Why had he failed in his position? Why had he allowed ships to go down? Why had he abandoned his post? Harker was aghast. He had not abandoned his post. He had trusted it to his beloved daughter. But when Harker returned to his home, he discovered a ghastly secret. There, at the foot of the tower to the lighthouse, was his beloved Amelia, with her throat slit. She had not failed in her task. She had been prevented from fulfilling it. Poor Benjamin was overwhelmed by the loss of his beloved daughter. And of course, being that the circumstances were suspicious, his conveniently leaving around the time his daughter died, suspicion fell on him. He was ostracized by the town and left with his grief, overwhelmed by the loss of his daughter and the loss of respect. Benjamin Harker hung himself in the tower. From that day on, there was no peace at Prescott Point. Every keeper that was chosen would quit within a month. They could not do their work, they said. There was something in the lighthouse tower, the sound of heavy footsteps, sounds of moans and cries and angry remonstrations going all the way up to the light itself. And worst of all, there was a vision of a beautiful young woman in gray, with her neck as red as blood. It was Amelia, come back again. From then on, no one could stay at the lighthouse, for it seemed as if the very stones of the tower were rejecting human habitation. And with no one to tend the light, it faded. Within a few years, a new lighthouse was built to replace Prescott Point. And since it was no longer in use, the lights, the fixtures, the brass, the wires were all removed. Yet, locals would say, on rain-swept nights in November, the light of Prescott Point would shine again as if it were the brightest day, even though there was no light for it to come from. But of course, no one really believes in such ghost stories. So if you ever find yourself off the coast of Maine on a November night, keep your eyes open and your imagination alive. And who knows? You may catch a glimpse of the haunted light.
Oh, was that a scary story or what? I got goosebumps. Ooh. No, that was good. I liked it. I appreciate it. Let's see. Sorry, I'm discoordinated. I'm trying to do the thing and do this, and it's all cool. Okay. Now, for your next scary story, you be prepared for the scariest story ever told. The title of the story is so scary that I cannot even pronounce it. I'm being too dramatic. I really can't say what it is. But a story by the world's most scariest writer, Cecily Wilson.
Hello, my name is Cecily. My story is titled Infanaja Ludoi. English translated is Childhood Games. This story is also formerly known as Tushalido, which is for Tag You're It. Here's the story. I've always loved the feeling of being in the backseat of a moving car. The moon feels like it's following me. I pretend that I'm hidden as we pass by the trees, and when we reappear on the other side, the moon is still there, beaming on me as if we were playing a game of flashlight tag. Tag, you're it. I giggle. We pass another shady tree and re-emerge seconds later from the cover of the night. I'm illuminated again. Ah, you got me. My game is interrupted as the car slows and we pull into the driveway. The house is large and looms over the entire car, hiding the moon from my sight. I guess I'm it, I think to myself as I exit the vehicle. As I walk up the front porch, I'm disappointed that I can't see the shine of the moon coming through any of the windows. All I can see is the glare of dimly lit curtains from within. Frustrated, I stuff my hands in my pocket and walk up the walkway onto the front porch. As I go to grip the door handle, I feel a slight tug on the back of my shirt collar. I turn slowly, hand paused in midair. My sister stares at me sternly as she says through pursed lips, "Ring the doorbell. Don't knock." Swiftly, I pull my hand back and straighten my collar. The shirt I found in the suitcase isn't fitting me as well as we had imagined, and I see my sister fluff out her skirt at an attempt at making it look like it fits. I ring the doorbell and step back, grabbing hold of my sister's hand. The intricate production begins. We stand still as statues as I follow the sing-song of the doorbell ring throughout the house. At first, there are no movements. I look again at the big wide windows and wonder if we are at an active residence. The suitcase had only held an address, phone number, and a bunch of children's clothes. Without warning, the door swings open. A young woman peeks out dressed in a schoolgirl's uniform and her hair tied back into a messy bun. Her eyes appear tired but alert. "May I help you?" I hear her mumble. She cracks her door wider to leer out at us. The tiniest gleam of the moon catches my eye from a distant window behind her. "Tag, you're it," I say to myself. From my peripheral, I see my sister's coal black eyes widen as she inspects the young woman intently. My eyes flick quickly to the car in the driveway and back to the young woman. I hope the bodies of the car inhabitants are hidden out of sight enough to not cause any alarm. My sister's crisp, curt voice jostles me from my thoughts. Pardon me, ma'am. My brother and I are having some car trouble. We need to call our parents. May we come in to use your phone?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Anyways, that was a good story. I was on the edge of my seat, literally. No, well, the bed, but whatever. Oh, sorry. That's something else. Um, very unprepared here, very unprofessional. But that was a great story. Thank you, Cecily. And now, are you kids prepared for another scary story? I hope you are, because this one's gonna get extra bloody. Just kidding, sorry. The story is called The Art Walk. And it's by Desert. Sorry, I was gonna say disaster, but it's Desiree Renee Wills.
Art walk. I wandered down the lane with vivid colors and sculptures popping out at me. I look for anything new, but nothing catches my eye. It was all too dreamy, too cliche, or too playful. I needed something more, something dramatic that plays on the pains of life. What is art to me, if I cannot see the art that's surrounding me? I pondered this obscene question as I walked further away from the main part of the art walk. I found myself walking the alleyways where the main shop's back doors were. This is where I saw it. One of the most beautiful paintings that has ever spoken to me. A vivid red, no wait, a crimson, almost pulsating with blood painting. It seemed like art with a heartbeat. Now that intrigued me. There along the painting sat an old man. He looked to be about 80, tall and slender, wearing a red flannel and blue jeans. He took a shaky hand and he pulled out another painting. To my joyous delight, another crimson red. I walked over to talk to him. I just had to know how he made these paintings so beautiful. He looked at me pleased and he smiled a toothless grin. I believed he was happy to be talking to someone. As I told him how beautiful his work was, his eyes lit up. He smiled his toothless grin and asked me if I wanted to help him paint again. He said it's been a while since anyone has ever taken a liking to my craft. At this moment, I had an uneasy feeling in my stomach, but I nodded yes, for my day has been dull. Plus, I'm always looking for new art techniques. He took a little while to get off his stool. I noticed how frail his skin looked. However, you can still see that he had muscles and he was able to stand pretty straight, although all his joints were clacking and cracking. I made a mental note of this. If this was something creepy, I can probably get away. He took me inside the shop that we were standing next to. Inside was dark except for one light, and in any horror-esque type of movie, the light was swinging. There was a clean canvas on the easel standing next to a dresser. Besides the dresser was a chair, just a regular wooden chair. He tells me to sit in the chair. As I sat, I looked up to the side of the clean canvas and on top of the dresser. There was something shiny. It looked to be a saw, and next to the saw were some horse-sized needles. It wasn't until I saw the bucket that was stained with red I realized I am going to have to fight for my life for this painting. This day got better. More exciting for sure. For his paintings were not only the color of blood. Oh no, they were more beautiful than that. They are blood. They have a pulse of the victims ingrained into the cotton canvas. These paintings are alive, and it seems as if it's my turn. Screams ignite the air, and nothing went down without a fight. Oh, but that painting was rare. This painting is full of sadness because of defeat. You can tell by the rush brush strokes what effort was put into capturing someone's true soul. I sought to that effort. Now I have my question answered. What is art to me? Well, I walked out with a painting, all of my own, that I never even had to buy. Art is beautiful, with a pulse, to tell a story. But no one will miss that old man more than I, for he taught me a medium that no one ever sees coming.
Alright, it says here professional makeup cream, ingredients water, Giselle, Telu, mineral oil, colon. Okay. Do not use silver or purple makeup around the mouth area. Do not use orange or red makeup around the eye area. Huh. Good to know. Well, anyways, that was a great story, Desiree. I was chilled by the blood that you have told. But seriously, don't use blood, kids. Keep it inside your bodies, okay? For those who are listening, who have children watching this, which you shouldn't have, but you did anyways, because you don't care about your children's well-beings in the night. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Anyways, our next rider, I hope you are most prepared. She has something so mysterious, so baffling, so evil, that it can only be told by the faceless tales. This is Faceless.
The Faceless by Stephanie Michelle. The Unwanted. I was used to being among the faceless, the ones that masses of people would pass by and be unaware. I saw all their faces. I heard the words they said to each other when they thought no one was around to hear the evil things that they would say. So the first day I felt the blur pass, it caught me off guard. The shape said man, but the way it moved and lurked felt like something else. I looked for his featureless face among the crowd, but he had vanished. It was 3 days till I felt like I was being watched again. I looked up from my hiding in the alley. I saw the countless masses rush by, unaware of the world that took place around them. In a break in the crowd, I saw the faceless man watching me from under his hoodie hood. He was so focused on me, and even without seeing his eyes, I could tell that my every move, every breath was being noted. I stood up so he knew I was watching him also. But I searched for him at a new height and he was gone. I stepped into the light on the street, no longer protected from my shadow of the alley. When I was at the same levels as everyone else, I suddenly felt like I was where I didn't belong. Almost at once, the faces that would normally pass me unaware of my presence turned and looked at my disheveled appearance in disgust. I slinked back into the safety of my shadow, but I was stopped mid-turn and the lights went out. Run. When my eyes opened, the room was dark. Only a little light seeped from under the door. Why did my head hurt so much? Something wet and thick coated my face. It was warm. I tried to lift my arms to wipe my face, but they were bound. Little by little, the detail of my circumstances became apparent. I couldn't move my head. It was pinned back. My legs matched the rest of me in bindings, and even a thick padded belt around my waist held me to the chair I unwillingly sat in. The door opened, and the room was flooded with light, making it hard to see. I could hear movement around me. As the white started to fade, I could see the outline of a figure moving around the room, shifting stuff from one table to another. Hello? My voice sounded more shaken than I hoped it would. No response, just more clicking of the metal tools on the metal tray. As my eyes adjusted, I could see the room looked more and more like a hospital room, but the lights above me flickered like they were going out. The figure turned, and before me stood the faceless man I saw before. This time he was in a lab coat and made no attempt to hide his featureless face. The pause let me understand how screwed I really was. He turned and went back to ignoring me and preparing his workstation. I could hear screams from down the hall, and then a door slammed, and it was followed by muffled cries. My eyes scanned the room for information. The room seemed to pulse with my heartbeat, and I felt like the faceless could feel my thoughts. I slowed my breath and looked around the room again, my eyes fixated on the restraints around my wrist, and the not fully buckled one on my left wrist. My eyes went back to a completely still figure in the pose like he was listening to my thoughts. When I noticed him, he went back to his work of placing each tool in its perfect place. I moved slowly till my wrist was free, and my eyes never left the faceless. Still slowly, I freed my right wrist. I looked down at the belt around my waist, and as my eyes came up to observe my captor, I was face to face with a blur of him, and his jerky movements made it hard for me to breathe. My hands reached back and felt the pen on the side table, and without thought, my hand led the pen to where his eyes should have been. No longer slow, no longer silent. My hands rushed over the remaining buckles. He squirmed on the floor and made a noise that made it hard to see. But how? I turned and slammed hard into the door and pushed it open at my weight. I looked both ways down a seemingly unending hall. I could still hear the cries, with the occasional peaks like torture continued. Split second, I need to pick. Towards the cries, away from the cries. The noise was making it hard to think. Away I ran. I passed doors upon doors. I didn't know what doors scared me more, the open ones or the closed. None were silent. Occasionally I would catch the glimpse of another unwanted strapped down and being poked and prodded. I ran. I needed to get to someone who would care, someone who would come back and save them, so I ran. I came up to a large glass window, the kind you would see new parents looking at their newborns at in old movies. But it wasn't newborns. I froze. It was more faceless, but they were in large glass tombs underwater, hooked up to a bunch of things. On the other side of the room stood two faceless over the body of a girl. They were pulling out organs and weighing it. Her blood was pumping through tubes. The noise was getting louder. It almost made it so I couldn't hear any commotion going off down the hall. I ducked into the closest room, and as turning away from the door, the lights went out. When my eyes opened, the room was dark. Only a little light seeped under the door. Why did my head hurt so bad? No. It felt exactly like my wake-up earlier. Again, my left wrist wasn't as tightly bound. I moved quickly and with purpose. Once I was free, I stood at the door for the faceless to walk in. I found the pen from before, and I was armed. I waited. The door opened and he walked in. He hit the lights and I was blinded. And before I knew it, the lights were out. Again, when my eyes opened, the room was dark, and I was back in the same room. Again, my left wrist wasn't as bound as tight. I again rushed through my unbuckling, but this time, in place of waiting at the door, I plowed through it and towards the screen. This ran me directly into my captive. I pulled off some of the tools from his tray and plowed them into him. I wiped the blood off my hands and grabbed a scalpel. I turned the corner and was looking directly down the barrel of a shotgun that led promptly to the arm of a body of another faceless. A surprisingly quiet pop, and then it went dark.
Oh, sorry, I was just typing in my story. But that was a good one, Stephanie Michelle. You truly know the horrors of the mystery and the suspense of time. I like these. La ba ba da 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 da. Oh oh. Ah, hard to get off. Hard to get off. Hard to get off. Okay. Woo. But now, are you children prepared for my story? I want you. Sorry. Can I get the fire one? No. No. Oh no. Oh. Alright, you guys ready for my story? Okay. This one is called Stay Off. And it goes something like this. On the night of Halloween, 3 lifelong friends are on the streets of the night, looking for their chance to pull off a prank on those who did not provide candy. Each home they visit have given the treats. However, they are eager to use the treats they have brought with them. Eggs, toilet paper, and empty candy wrappers as weapons of choice. To those who decide to go against the trick-or-treat code, Joe, the leader of the trio, was most anxious to find the perfect place. Disappointed so far with how the night was going, Joe wasn't about to end the evening without accomplishing the mission. Greg and Harry suddenly stopped and gazed upon it. Joe knew that this was the place. The Eerie House. For those who did not know the legend of the Eerie House, or those who did not grow up in the neighborhood, every story is different, from brutal killings to disturbance of the lost and evil spirits. Whichever you choose to believe, it was clearly a haunted house. The place throughout the year appears to be abandoned, with its aged chipped paint wooden and dusted, cracked windows. However, on every Halloween it is always decorated by a hanging skeleton, a scarecrow on its post, and a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin with a carved and ominous face. Even though the area was oozing with horrific aura, the 3 young men knew what had to be done. Before entering the grounds, they noticed a sign that simply says, "Stay off." But they choose to ignore it and walked on the premise. Joe approaches the door and begins to knock on and yells out, "Trick or treat!" Of course, no one answers, which gave the signal to wreck the house. Tossing the eggs, spreading the trash, and throwing the paper into the trees. But Joe felt that they weren't finished with what they came to do. To make this trick extra special, The outside decoration must be destroyed. Gray kicked down the scarecrow and unstuffed it. Harry rips down the hanging skeleton and scattered the bones across the grounds. Joe jumps in the air, landing on the jack-o'-lantern, smashing it into pieces. The boys looked upon their work and left happy and satisfied. They walked away. That distinguished candle in that pumpkin continues to glow. It was the late hours. The boys went their separate ways. Joe returned home, planning to end the night with a horror film and a popcorn. Alone, Joe enjoys a scary movie when all of a sudden, the doorbell rang. Joe yells out, "No candy!" as he thought they were late night trick-or-treaters. The bell rang again, getting Joe to walk out the door and to peek at the window. The door window. Seeing that nothing was out there, Joe decided to head back to his movie. But the doorbell rang again. Frustrated, Joe ran outside his front door to confront the intruders. But no one was there. No one. And he closes the door. The bell rang again, only louder. Joe went out and still sees no one. But he looks across his neighbor's yard and sees something familiar. For it was the same lawn creatures that was once destroyed by the three, just a few moments ago. Joe sees them and concluded that they were just a coincidence. He rushes inside, locking the door right behind him. Looking out the window, and the creatures are now on his lawn, staring towards him. "What's going on?" Joe had to ask. A loud knocking struck the door, followed by rings of bells from the doorbell, relentlessly scaring back Joe. The pounding noise continues hard. Then it quickly stopped. Joe slowly moves over to the window to see if they're still out there. Quiet. Joe sees nothing. Then something hits the side of the window, covering the screens as red smudges. "Is that blood?" Joe asks, in terror. Outside the window, the creatures are throwing what appears to be body parts, hitting against the house, all over the yard and hanging from the trees. Joe notices the backpacks that once had the trick-or-treat weapons they had would now have belonged to Greg and Harry. Now realizing that their body parts was in their own packs. "Oh my God, I'm next!" Joe cries out. He rushed to the living room and moves the couch to the front door. The ghouls start hammering at the door, pushing and clawing. He can hear them laughing sinisterly, saying, "Trick or treat." Joe closed his eyes, praying they will go away as they keep pounding away. Then it went quiet. Joe slowly opens his eyes to look. The scarecrow and the skeleton are staring right at Joe, very still and silent. Is it over? Did they give up? They must have stopped, figuring they can't get in. These were the thoughts going through Joe's mind, thinking it must be over. But then, a smell caught Joe's attention, and an ominous glow hits the corner of his eyes. And the last thing that Joe saw was the jack-o'-lantern he once destroyed, now hurling towards him. A year has gone past since that night. It's Halloween again. People are out trick-or-treating, enjoying the holiday. However, if you ever pass by the Eerie House, you will notice that the resemblance of the three boys are now replacing the decorations they have once destroyed. So remember, to always remember, to keep away and to stay off. Well, thank you guys for joining us. That's the last story, and you guys comment below whose story was your favorite. Thank you for listening, and hope you guys have a great and happy haunted Halloween. Thank you. Sorry.